51. We're on the road to 100. That's another year to go, but fuck whatever, right? I'm gonna get this going. I'm excited. I just got to do like a big panel the other day, so I got to chat with all sorts of really cool people, including tonight's guest. So super excited. As always, if you guys are here, I just changed it to public, so I should start seeing comments and stuff. So feel free to say hi, share, like, you know what it is. Check out the YouTube, all that. What up, gorgeous? I was just looking at your book today. Yeah, sweet. Okay, cool. We're getting it out there. We're talking. Speaking of your book, what's up, buddy? You too. Yeah, I'm really excited for tonight. I just got to talk to this lady the other day, Wendy Steen Shaner, my second favorite Wendy. No offense. No offense. And I have to say that because she watches all my shows. But much love to all you guys. So glad you're here. Thank you, buddy. I really appreciate that. You are awesome, dude. We're gonna have a great night. I've got Krysta Crawford on here. We're gonna talk about Wolf and I. We're gonna talk about her creations and how she creates and all that kind of great stuff. It's gonna be pretty fucking awesome. I'm really just stoked to all shit. Yeah, see, right. She is awesome. She's a total keeper. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you popping in. You're always welcome here. Anytime you want to pop by and say hi, you're more than welcome. Yeah, geez. Just excited. Just so excited. We're gonna have like an absolutely fantastic show. And you know what? I think it's about time we just make it happen. So, without too many more ados, let's do this motherfucker.
Canadian bacon is actually really good, and it's nothing like normal bacon, and it's better than ham, which you guys seem to call Canadian bacon. I'm very good at writing. I write very well. Yeah, it's Shop Talk.
Do some of your audience members like the word fuck? Cool, then I'm gonna keep saying fuck. Because I care.
Krysta's in the house!
Hey, Chuck, thanks for having me back again. It feels like deja vu.
I know, right? Except for now we don't have all those other people clamoring up and getting in the way. You know what, that thing...
It was so much fun. It was the whole
right?
like Brady Bunch layout and kind of like ping-ponging and like you get a taste of everything. And I think that was just so... I hope you keep doing that because I would love to be back for something like that.
I had a really good time with it. You know, what I tend to hate about those things is that all too often, you're focusing on one person for like half an hour. So if you think about it, if you had like 4 guests, then for an hour and a half, 3 of those guests are fucking bored out of their trees. And so that's why I kind of like ADD'd the thing. And I was like, let's talk to everybody as often as we can. Let's get around. Like, I don't know. I just know what I hate when I'm on a show.
Yeah, because then you just get dragged in, and then if it's not your thing, you're like, but I want to hear about like those 3 shows. And also too, like when you're a participant, you're like, okay, it's my turn. It's my turn. Like I want to talk, and then you end up with like 30 seconds. And you're like, how do I explain my entire book and my project and everything that I do in 30 seconds? And not like it was intentional, but I liked that. I liked that roundhouse kind of conversation because I feel like that's what we do when we get together in real life. When we're at conventions, when we're getting together for dinners, we're like, what are you working on? What's going on? What projects do you have? And asking questions back and forth. Well, like, how did you get hooked up with that person? And what made you decide to do this? And what got you into this? And, it kind of just goes around like a dinner conversation. And it just really gave me that friendly atmosphere.
Good. And everyone, like, it was such a good group, too. Everyone was so cool. Even, like, a lot of times you do it and then you move on. But everyone was still talking about it days later, showing it off, sharing, talking about each other's shows. We got to see yours pump up because you're now... We wanted to get you 10 more backers so that I could get my whiskey glass. That's what it's all
we're there. Not only did we hit 10, we turned this up to 11.
Right. That's great. That's really good. What a great reference.
I had to.
That's a great reference. Oh, that's good. Well, and then, like, we didn't, but I'm So Goth got funded. So that
Yes.
one, so yeah, dude, I think
And I
it
think
went
they only have
really
like 12
well.
hours left. And so that's super
Yeah.
exciting for them because they were still like $2,000 from being funded when we were on the show.
Yeah. Yeah, they had a tough go and they
Hmm.
did really well. Matt Cargill's in the house. He's never seen the intro. I'm glad you like that, man. I love that intro. Eric Cockrell made that for me, and he is the best. Brian Manel's in the house. Brian brings the best questions. He's gonna get your mind going probably worse
I
than you.
love questions.
Good. Brian, I feel like those kinds of things exhilarate and train us in approaching how we talk about our projects in different situations. I love it and have a mild amount of stress while doing so.
This is true. And
Yeah.
I think that sometimes, as creators, especially when we're on these shows, we're like, what's your project about? And then you're like, this is my comic, yada, yada, yada. I'm on Kickstarter, Indiegogo, yada, yada, yada. And then you're like, okay. And so a few shows I've been on lately have really kind of, in a mildly stressful amount of way, put me in a position to be like, how can I express my comic and talk to people about it? That's not just here's my comic. It's a young adult blah blah fantasy novel. You should back it. It's really cool and has variant covers. But like creating movie pitches and like why I came up with it and who I am and how it, why, it's not just a comic, but why you should back it for the story and the purpose of it and stuff. And so getting in those like niche places.
Yeah. Well, and how many times can you fucking do that and make it feel
Authentic.
like authentic? Exactly. Like you haven't practiced it a million times, which we all have. I mean, you have to. When you do shows, you're out there giving very much the same pitch over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And so how can you because you also know that your fans are going to watch you on several shows.
Yes.
And you don't want that to be boring to them.
And for them to be like, oh yeah, I've already heard this. Like, let me go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or even
You
the
want them to
fans
get
like,
something new.
like this is issue 3. And so like really thinking about how do I bring people in without making them feel like they're not going to get caught up or make them like not give away too much in the book too, but also make it interesting. So they like know, like, this is a continuation. Like, this is why you should continue the story. And I think that is a huge challenge for artists and creators who are creating sequentials and who are launching sequentials that are not like the initial Kickstarter.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because again, you don't want to spoil the people who haven't read 1 and 2, but you also want to give something for the people who are here for 3 and they want to know what's going on. Yeah.
Yes, you have to find that balance between like new people you're bringing on, people that are here that have already come for 1 and 2 and now they're here for 3, and then the people that are just here for collecting variant covers too. Like, you don't want to bore them with all the internals. Like, they are here to support their artists and to buy the work from their artists. So like it's a multi-complex situation that you have to really, be in a whole different hat to promote. Yeah. It's not just this is my art, this is my story, but like this is the reason why each individual person should be drawn to this.
Yeah. Well, so Tina's in the house. What's going on, girlfriend? Hope you're doing well.
Tina!
Congratulations on funding
Yes.
Roadkill Rampage. I always love seeing more and more people funding. It's just
it just brings me so much joy and so exciting to get to like share these projects. One of the big things I focused on this year on Twitter was really just being an advocate in the indie comic scene. Yep. Getting people excited. We do Kickstarter / Indiegogo like crowdfunding Sunday. So I make a post and I'm like, link your campaigns, like your friends' campaigns, link what you're working on, links what's launching new. And just like really promoting people, like checking other people out, even if it's not your thing, even if you don't want to back it, share it. You have 200 followers, 400 followers, 1,000 followers. One of them is bound to be like, oh, I wish I would have gotten on this. I never heard about it. Yeah. One of the big, and I know it's true. No matter how many times we post, there are people that still miss them. There are people that still miss the emails. I had multiple people this campaign who've messaged me and they're like, hey, I backed your first Kickstarter for issue 1. I didn't even know there was a Kickstarter for issue 2. And now I'm here for issue 3. Like, how do I get issue 2?
Add-ons, baby. Add-ons.
Yes. Which is such a cool thing that Kickstarter has now, and something I've definitely taken advantage of, as you know, with my whiskey glass.
Right? It's a game changer. It really is in a lot of ways, personally. Oh, dude. Here, like, let's show that one up close. Like, seriously.
Okay, so this one's hard to see, like, with the glare of my screen. It's much better in the picture when we pull up the Kickstarter, people will be able to see it. But it's got the Wolf and I logo on it, and when it's filled with like actual drink whiskey, tea,
it really
whiskey scotch, it pops. Yeah.
Oh, nice. I love that. Sam says, hey, another Tuesday. Nah, man, it's never another Tuesday. It's always a big new Tuesday. And you know what? We were actually supposed to have someone else on today.
Ooh.
They got sick. And then I was like, I had actually promised you the slot and forgotten. So this was perfect redemption.
It just worked. It worked out perfectly. I'm like, I'm free, Chuck. I'm here. I'm ready.
It was funny. So this is show 51. Mm-hmm. I do one every week. Now, halfway through, I missed one show.
Oh,
I threw up my back so fucking bad, I couldn't even sit up. I was in so much pain. So I messaged this guy. And I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm going to try to get you in as soon as possible, but I can't do tonight. And he's like, no, that's totally fine. Not an issue. I'm like, okay, great. Thank you so much. The next week's guest had to cancel on me, so I brought him in. So really, I've never.
It's out.
It's always worked out. So it's been really good. Yeah. Just throwing the book at them work.
It depends what they're into.
Right? I feel like, you know what? I would say at a convention, immediately, throwing the book at them is kind of like trying to fuck without foreplay. I know. I'm sorry. It's
true. It's so true, though. It really is.
Work them into it. You know what I mean?
Well, and when you're at Comic-Con, you get these like blinders of like, there's so much art and there's so much things going on that you just are like overwhelmed, and it just, there's just one thing that's going to like draw your attention, and if everybody's pitching everything at you, you just start to get really like blindsided by it. And so that's why I really wanted to bring something. And even with Kickstarters, like you see all these Kickstarters and there's amazing art out there, there's amazing stories out there. Like, it pains me when I look, because I'm like, oh, I wish I had more, because I want to support this one and this one and this one and this one and this one. And that's why I end up sharing a lot of or doing like, cross promotion type stuff.
There's entire series which I haven't even touched.
I'm near the bacon. Sorry. Chris and I have this thing going on. He's like, I am now forever known as the one
bacon lady. Bacon. Well, so there's some that I haven't even been able to touch because I just never have the money when it comes around. I'm like, I'm going to find you at a convention. I know you do a lot of shows. And then I will pick up some books because I know at least at shows by Sunday, I'll have enough money to buy a couple books. So I'm going to buy some books. Hopefully, as long as I did my job right. So I wouldn't just throw my book at them. Sam, you know what? We've been talking around the book, which is Wolf I Am, but we haven't.
We're really trying to like build up the hype. Like, are you ready? Are you ready to see it? You sure? You maybe want to see it? Look at this whiskey glass right here.
This is the logo. Speaking of, Andrea is so excited. She's the same as me. Good old Canadian girl who loves her whiskey. So
Yes. Not Canadian, but I definitely love my scotch and whiskeys. And like, I have such a great appreciation for them, which is kind of what like funded this whole, like, sitting here trying to think outside the box. Like, okay, I've got this comic. I've got these really good ideas. I've done stickers. I've done bookmarks. I've done pins. I'm doing pins again. I'm like, but what can I do that is different? That's going to be like a useful collectible item, but something that I know I'll use, that I know other people will use. And I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen anybody do like a whiskey glass, like an actual. And I was like, I use one at least a couple times a week. And so
you're a nurse. You would have to. No, you're a doctor, right?
Yeah, so a nurse practitioner, but I do. Yeah, I'm a doctorally prepared nurse practitioner. It gets really like long and complicated, but yes, officially I have my doctorate. But my title is certified pediatric nurse practitioner.
That's cool. Dr.
So
Nurse.
yes,
I kind of like that,
Dr.
actually.
Nurse. Yeah,
I
I
like
mean,
that.
yeah, that's the shortest term of Dr. Nurse. But then people are like, well, what's a Dr. Nurse? I'm like, all right, here, let me tell you. I'm
Well,
also a professor at one of the local universities, so I teach like the master's program, and
oh,
so
that's so cool. See, my mom
I
has
just
her master's in nursing, so she
mhm.
does the same thing. She teaches and all that kind of stuff. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So, The Wolf and I is your book.
Yes.
Like everyone's so excited about it. So why don't we give us that beautiful pitch and
Yes.
let's hear
Oh,
what that
I
book's
love
about.
my pitch. My pitch, just like every time I say it, it gives me like chills down my spine because I'm just so excited for this story. The story has been brewing and growing, and like it came to me. This was actually going back to thinking outside the box and being put under pressure. I was on a show that you had to like basically in the moment, impromptu, like pitch your campaign. And so I came up with this like rough, really quick, like movie. Like I had like 30 seconds to put it together. Like, how would you pitch your comic book if it was a blockbuster movie? And so I've like fine-tuned it and hined it. But this is kind of, if you're interested in my book, listen to this. And if it sounds good, like definitely check out the Kickstarter. In a land slowly overtaken by darkness, eyes peer into every nightmare. Tread carefully, take heed and beware, for creatures crawl throughout the night. Secrets of history shall come to light, internal powers before unknown. Choices are made, worlds are shown. Two herons are faced with a choice to band with friends and unite their voice. Against this evil they must stand, for the fate of Crayweth lays in their hands.
That's fucking great. I love that so much. It's so good. It's
And I just, when
tingles.
I say it, I can like see the characters in my head, and I can just see these movie scenes where they're like facing down like at the Mermaid Lagoon and the forest, and like seeing friends in the distance, and then like meeting up with people, and then like getting to the battle scene where there's like the shapeshifter wolves on one end, and then them and their friends like coming together, and then like fog rolling in and the lights and the sounds, and I'm just like, ah.
I don't know if you notice it in yourself, but you kind of take on a character when you do that poem. Like every
Mhm.
time you sit differently, you speak differently. Like it's great. I love the dude.
Oh, I just feel it so much.
Right?
And and these characters have lived in my head for years and years now, and they've developed and they've grown, and the story has just come together. And so like I love it, and I'm so excited.
Mic drop is in the house. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Are you a Twitch gamer streamer? I was actually going to ask you that when we were
Ooh.
talking beforehand.
Yes. So I do stream on Twitch, although not as often as I was. I was streaming up to 3 times a week. And then with COVID and working extra at the hospital, my schedule got kind of crazy, and then I switched jobs. So I do try to stream once a week. Usually I stream on Thursdays. And I bounce between streaming art and streaming games. The big things I've been streaming lately have been a little bit more laid back. I've been doing a lot more Stardew Valley. But my hardcore game of all time is Final Fantasy 14, which I've been playing since 1.0 back in 2010. White Mage for life.
Wow. Okay. I'm a huge Final Fantasy game fan, or was.
Yeah.
It's downplayed a little bit because it started to get hard to be a Final Fantasy fan. 12 was tough. I was the 13s did not hit me at all.
13 wasn't my thing. I didn't get into 13. I did 11. I like the online RPGs. I mean, I like the old school Final Fantasy too. Don't get me wrong, but I like that like community feel of like getting on to play with people, doing quests, doing side quests, working through the story, and banding together, creating
doing
that
raids
guild
and stuff. Yeah.
I really enjoy that. I never got into WoW, but I definitely was I'm on a Final Fantasy hiatus just as I focus on my career and work through the new job and stuff. But I'm like biting at the bit to get back at it. Yes, cool. Final Fantasy nerds for life, if you can't tell.
Sorry, I've got my partner that I'm going on a trip with. He's like, I have some serious news. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm live, but let me know because I am fucking curious as shit, and I hate whenever anyone says I have news. I'm like, okay, so what bad thing happened?
You're like, all right, I'm like on my tip and toes here, like hurry up. But no, I like Final Fantasy so much. We commissioned, gosh, it was for our 9 or 10 year wedding anniversary. 9-year, I think, a full like 11x17 custom Final Fantasy with our like 2 main characters and then a bunch of little creatures around it for our anniversary gift. Like, that's how much we love it.
So that's something that you guys share together.
Yeah, one of the first. We played 11 together, and then we played 14 for many, many years, and still some of our close friends. We either met them through Final Fantasy, or we played Final Fantasy with them, or we played it and then realized they played it and then played it together for years.
That's because my wife and I are big into a lot of that too. Like we did WoW together and all that kind of stuff. So I love that. Like I said, power couples, man. Power couples. Yeah. I'm a big fan.
You gotta find things to stick together,
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
You gotta have that balance of like, your own things you do and her own things that you do, and then the things you guys do together too.
So let's go back, because you are a comic creator, but you're also a comic fan. Mm-hmm. What are your origins as both a fan and as a creator?
So this is a hard one, because I dabbled a bit as a kid in comics, but I wasn't like hardcore. I didn't get into like truly into comics until I got more into the adult. And I really liked a lot of the like stronger female character base, like Scarlet Witch. And I liked a lot of the Squirrel Girl and the more female focused like X-Men comics. And then I liked a lot of the like fairy tale retelling comics and the My Little Pony comics, which, my kid was into. So it was like a combination of like, let's read this together. And just like that interesting appeal. I'm a like hardcore bookworm, as we've talked about before. Like I love books. I've read 71 books this year. I just got another book in the mail. I've got another book down here. I think I'm reading like 6 at one time right now.
I can't do that. I need to do one at a time.
But so that was kind of my thing. A little balance of both.
That's so cool. And see, we're getting hazed. Final Fantasy nerds.
It's okay. I'm gonna have to tell Steph about what happened before we got on after the show, though.
Oh, yeah, totally. See, even Sam is all down for the Final Fantasy.
See?
He has some experience with 10 and 13. Wasn't too into them, but I love the remake too.
The remake was good. Yeah, I didn't play it, but Steven played it. I got to watch him play it, and it looked real good. I
remember playing FF7 and enjoying it, but there was so many people who were like stupidly into it, and I was like, guys, there are like fist-size holes in this story, and you're just like, no, it's cool, and I'm like, come on.
But you're like, but wait, there's like plot missing.
Yeah, and I'm like, come on, guys, like there's so much stuff. I really felt like I had to separate myself way too much to enjoy it, whereas there was other Final Fantasy games that you could just fall into and just be, for me, my favorites 6 and 9, and not just because they're 69, but 6 and 9, those stories are so good, and they bring you in, and the worlds are so exciting, and there's really just not a lot of holes to poke into them, and I love them. So yeah. But I'm surprised that he didn't love 10, because 10 was another really good one.
I really like 10.
Right?
That 10 was probably the one I played the most of. Of all the Final Fantasies, and the one that I know I completed, and then I've played at least a couple times, like here and there playthroughs, in addition to 11 and 14. But I feel like 11 and 14 are such, different. They're so different because they're not like your classic just playthrough game. They're the whole like universe online MMO like WoW style, and so I think it's got that true Final Fantasy feel and story to it, but it's different than talking about playing 10 or playing 13 or 9.
So Andrea says I was her FF intro. I didn't know that I was the one. I didn't know that at all. So that's great. That's so cool. I'm happy. I hope you enjoy it. Brian says favorite FF characters.
Oh gosh, that's really hard.
I know, right? That's almost mean.
That is almost mean.
Stuff, buddy.
I like chocobos. I'm panicking now. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know the chocobos. No, gosh, I don't really have like a personal, my own character in Final Fantasy 14. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I don't really have like that is my diehard like go to Final Fantasy character. I just like the story and the development, and I'm really big into the creatures, so I love when they come out with different creatures, whether they're good guys, bad guys. One of the things I really liked in 14 is you were able to change your chocobo's like color based on what you fed it, and you could only feed it every certain hours, and then it went through, and it would change even like the slight shades of it, and then you could put like armor and different like hats on your chocobo. And so for me that was just like such a cute thing to do. But you had to like really, okay, if you fed it this fruit 7 days in a row, it would become like 7 shades of darker green, but then if you added this one fruit, then it would change it to purple, and it was a lot of like math and thinking and looking up cheat codes and stuff. Are we still talking Final Fantasy?
We are, and I didn't know any of that shit. That's hilarious. And honestly, that's like way too much for me. I'd just be like, motherfucker, you're eating whatever you eat. We'll see what color you turn. Yeah, we'll see what color you turn. Since I asked Chuck this earlier, just because I'll ask you this. If money was no object, what would you do with your title?
Ooh, with my comic. You know what? I would print hundreds of thousands of copies and I would distribute it. I'd send it to children's hospitals. I'd send it to libraries. Like I would give it for people to read. But I'm paying off those student loans one comic at a time. That's my true pitch.
So is your book a little, I sadly haven't read it yet, but is your book a little more all ages?
Yes. So it's teen rated. There is a little like, romance, and there's some violence in there. There's a little bit of blood, but it's not to a point like going by there's like a comics grading scale. It would definitely fall into the teen plus category, like the 13 plus, rather than like mature or all ages.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sam started with 3. It's one of my favorites. It's still to this day.
Too.
And the little opera scene song, that's the only song that I can play on the piano.
The music is just so good in like
right?
all of them. Yeah. And so iconic. Like you hear it and you're like, oh, that's a Final Fantasy song.
I don't know why he's yelling Squirrel Girl, but
because we talked about which comics I read, and Squirrel Girl was one of the ones. Yeah. Who, in fact, sneak preview for Phoenix Fan Fest, there is a 75 to 95% chance that I will be dressed as Squirrel Girl at my booth.
Dude, okay, that's fun.
I have to figure out the logistics of the tail still, but we're working on it. It's a work in progress.
You getting some love from Wendy. Brian wants to know, how did you conceptualize your Wolf and I story? Ooh. Are there any inspirations for it? I told you this guy was going to come on hard.
Hey, I love it. And I think we talked a little bit about this too on your Saturday show. So kind of just touching back on that, like a lot, these characters were really created in my head as I wanted them to be inspiration, characters that people can relate to, a story that people can like step away from the harsh realities of life and be like, okay, this is a totally, irrelevant, like not real story and real situation, but I can put myself in here and I can see that they're going through these trials and they're making friendships and I can apply that to my own life. Like if they can do it, I can do it. And so that kind of like created the base skeletal structure. And then from there on, it was just hundreds of thousands of inspirations of stuff I grew up reading, the classics, your, well-loved fantasy novels, and just wanting to create these characters in my head that people would like, that, and that are relatable. And so that's kind of where it started. And then it just has grown from there.
Are there maybe like 2 or 3 novels that you feel most inspired, or that you could kind of mishmash together to explain where you came up with Wolf and I?
Like, yes and no, because I didn't really take, directly from like, okay, this is based on this book or this is based on this. It really was just, 2 characters that I'm like, okay, I like this character. And what if she's half fae and half shapeshifter? So she's got this parent dynamic of this fairy tale background. So like I grew up reading a lot of grim fairy tales and like good guy, bad guy, where villains got their backstories from, creatures in disguise, kind of the whole like big bad wolf type of situation. And so I guess that would be the big story that inspired this male character who's the wolf shapeshifter who goes in as a prince in disguise to the realm of the realm of the Fae in Krayweth and kidnaps the princess and steals her away to his kingdom, because his whole plan is to create this child between the Fae and the wolf shapeshifters and use her powers to manifest and help take over the land of Krayweth, because ultimately he wants to take from his little shadow realm and then take over the entire land. And so this is his like futuristic plot, and it, you know, kind of in issue 1 really just delves in deep about, you know, what the situation that went on. And so from there it just bloomed into, okay, well, I want her to have this like main sidekick friend, and what, you know, her friend can't just be human, because I can't just dump a human into the realm and like have her fend for herself. And so I was like, okay, what is this person going to have, and what other creatures are we going to have, and, you know, what connections are they going to make, and is she going to have this moral dilemma of joining her father and always wanting to know her parents versus accepting friendship from these creatures that she's never met before, but like feeling for their plot of wanting to save their land. And so it just kind of has rolled and snowballed into this world and stories and more characters. And now we have side characters on side characters that have just rounded and it's just been so fun to like see them come to life and like find their personalities and the issues as like they keep getting introduced and, you know, things thrown in their faces, like join me, don't join me. Is this person like a good guy, a bad guy, lover, you know, enemies to lovers, or is he enemies to enemies type of situation?
I love that. Well, because I'm going to get to whatever you're laughing at, but Sam says, I wish I could show you my characters. Lots of strong female-driven stories.
Oh, fantastic.
Dude, Sam and I actually got to meet at a convention not too long ago in San Antonio, and I would tell you, bud, you're on here all the time. I love having you on here. When you've got something done and you have something ready to show off, hit me up. We'll get you on the show. I'd love to have you on the show, talk about your process. I believe I got to see some of his art and whatnot. And so, yeah, man, I totally love that. No, we're now done. You're welcome. You can hang out. I bought 7 for PS because of you guys. I don't know if the Game Boy versions count. They count. Whatever. They're fine. That's so cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's so neat. I didn't
Not to go back
that.
to Final Fantasy stuff. But
I know, right? Don't worry. We'll leave it again, buddy. We'll leave it.
That was like your 10-second bite.
Right? See, you're the one bringing it up, dude. You're the problem now. We were ready to move on.
Now the problem child.
Brian asks actual questions. If you hate actual questions. Mark May, what's going on, buddy? Good to see you. Glad to see you popping in. Thank you. How'd the Stormtrooper like it?
Oh, did you see my Trooper on the Pooper advertisement for Wolf and I?
No,
You're missing out if you haven't.
Okay, I'll go check that out.
That's my newest advertisement, is if the Trooper on the Pooper wants to read Wolf and I, you should read it too. And I literally have a Stormtrooper reading Wolf and I on the Pooper.
That's so great. We have I have a book that I've edited with a guy. It's called The Comic, and it's a superhero who is also a comedian.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so all of his advertisements are jokes, and so he's like, so what other things can you do with the comic besides read it? And then he's like, it holds up your table. It can be used to fix your car, and he's got it like taped to the side of his car over a dent and shit, like just all these things. It's so funny. You can read it to your cats, and he's sitting there reading it. His cats are all around and shit. Like,
oh, that's funny.
So fun. Oh yeah,
So that comes in my. You know, I have surpassed my funding goal. I've surpassed my personal goal, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go crazy now. We're gonna throw everything at this, including the kitchen sink, and this is why we put the Trooper on the Pooper reading Wolf and I.
I love that. See,
inspired by Steph Wilson. I will say this is inspired by Steph Wilson's constant memes. This is the problem. Memes.
Fairy tale. You're right. Doesn't Canada feel like a fairy tale because it's so much better than all other countries, and it's got all that beautiful, lush wilderness? You're right. It does feel like a fairy tale. Thank you.
Where
Steph.
the wolves come out and eat you alive.
Exactly. You know what? I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but this was a thing back home. we would go we had like cottage country. So you would go, and it was mostly just cottages and whatnot. And late at night, people would drive their cars up to the garbage dump. And then they would sit there with their lights on and everything, and they would watch as the bears would come out and hang out in the dump, and then the bears would even come out, and they were all very calm, and they would walk over to the cars and stuff and just kind of look around and then go away again because you don't have anything for them. And it was just so neat to like sit in your car at the garbage dump, and which sounds dumb until you go and be bear watching. Like, that was neat.
Is this because there's no TV in Canada?
in the north, yeah. Actually, that's true. When I was a kid, yes, like there was no TV stations up there. It really did suck. So yeah, bear watching was a thing, and it was pretty great. Oh, Mark May is currently drawing a wolf.
Ooh, wolves for life.
Yeah. I hope that's not the elevator.
Steph Wilson, this is the elevator to hell, where it's like 1,000,000 floors and you're stuck on it forever, and you're just going to hear my elevator pitch for the rest of your eternal life on the way down, all the way down. Be prepared.
Eventually, he will start like rhyming with you, and he'll be like, "Once in a fog," Do you have the whole? Yeah, that's. Thank you, Brian, for bringing that up, because I was thinking about that too. Do you have the whole story basically set in your head, or with each issue, are you open to other changes and possibilities and whatnot?
A little bit of both. And this is something that I brought up before. Wolf and I was originally meant to be a published novel, not a comic book. And so I had written probably 3/4 of a full, like, actual book. But the problem is I never finished it because I was like, well, what about this? And what if I change this? And being a perfectionist, I was like, oh, but if I do this, then I really have to change this chapter. And if I do this, to change this chapter. And so it's never gotten published because I keep changing things on it. And I was like, you know what? I deserve to put this out. Like, I need to put this out for me, for my own personal self. And I was like, but I'm going to keep changing it because that's just who I am. But if I publish it, then it's published and it's done. So I'm publishing it one chapter at a time. Now, that doesn't mean that like I may tweak a few things here and there, but I definitely have 3/4 of an entire book written out for publishing the actual comic.
Okay, cool.
There's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Do you have like an ETA or a length that you're going for?
I don't. It is going to go until it is done. I have at least 20 issues worth of content mapped out that I know that I have like direct story for. Beyond that, we'll just see where Wolf and I takes us.
That's pretty badass.
It's maybe a lifelong,
right?
We're not talking about Final Fantasy.
But
no, we're done. But yes,
Dawn, that's too bad, man. You're missing out.
You're missing out. You really need to let's go 1
I guess I just chucked too. Fuck you, Greg.
Hi, Greg. Greg's got a camping up too.
I tried to have him on that show that night, and he missed out, and now he's going to talk shit to me. You missed out, Gregory. You missed out. Brian's on the show payroll. He should be. He should be making way more than I am. He does the real work. I'm the face, and he asks all the good questions.
Oh, I love Peyton's comic. We make comics. Yeah, there's no payroll.
There's no payroll. That's totally true. You know what? If you're the creator, there's no payroll for you. Everyone else gets paid.
This is true. Everybody else is paid. You're like, my funding goal is so that I can pay Steph Wilson for his cover.
Right? I had someone... So, like, I've had artists... I didn't really understand, like, at the beginning, I didn't know a lot about comps. And so, for me, I was like, if you want comps... just ask for it ahead of time and have it as part of your contract. I don't have a problem with that. But then I had someone come to me later and go, hey, I didn't get any comps. And I'm like, you didn't ask. That wasn't part of the thing. They're like, well, shouldn't I have some books? And I'm like, look, I don't mean to be rude. And this is kind of my take on it. And if it's ignorant, I'm always willing to listen. But personally, the books that I print are the only way I'm going to make money off of this thing. So every time I give one to you, that's money I'm not giving to me. So I have no issue. Like when Steph came in, he's like, hey, man, I love selling the comps. Can I get comps? Absolutely. And I had no problem. I had no problem doing that.
And I love that. I love seeing the artists get so excited to like have their own copies to take to Comic-Con after the comic has finished and sell their comics. And it's something I definitely, especially having a variety of variant covers, like that was one thing I talked about with all of them. Like, are you wanting comps? How many comps are you wanting? And kind of figuring that out at the beginning. That way it was like set in stone and things were ready. And I think that's really important, being open with people when you're working with multiple people on a project. Like, this is what I'm expecting from you. This is what you're expecting from me. Like, this is where we need to meet in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm racking up the IOUs as we speak, and I shall collect. I have a slot just waiting for you, Brian. As soon as you've got a book out there and you're ready to talk, man. The only problem is, Brian, when you come on the show, there's no one who's going to ask any questions.
Oh, I'm a good question asker, but
you're going to have to be, because he'll be gone.
I will flip the table.
Right? Well, that'll be fun. Did you mention you have a kid? If so, do they like Wolf and I? Oh, and same question for me. Oh, you first.
Yes, I do have a kid, and she does like Wolf and I, and she has gotten to see all of issue 3 already, as has the Flatter, and they're so excited. Like, she is 9, so she is below like the recommended grading for it, so there are a few things that go over her head, but she is really excited, and she's excited to see me get excited. And I think that's really good to be, somebody that's a little inspirational for your kids. No matter what you do, like, you don't have to be an artist to be inspirational for your kids, but just being a good role model and showing them that you can get excited about something, that you can get passionate about something, and then, giving it your all.
My kids are older, so like 12, 18, and 20. So when I started making comics, they were like, oh, good for you. And then that was kind of the end of it. They didn't give a fuck. And then I got my oldest to read Belial. Because I was like, dude,
Belial was fun.
Oh, thank you. Did you read it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit. Oh, cool. Oh, yeah, of course you did.
We did.
Do you read? Well, yeah, I just got like 100 from you the other day.
Okay, let me just say this. I don't read everything that we print, but there are.
Oh, good. I'm glad you did.
There are a few things I definitely explicitly try not to, like, avoid my eyes when I'm printing.
Oh, I bet. And we're not talking about Jim Noble.
Totally not. Yeah, definitely not.
Well, so I got them to read it, and they enjoyed it a lot, and then they enjoyed too. But my middle child had not touched anything I read. And so the other day, I had been working in the morning, and then I got the delivery from you guys of issue 1s, and they were here on the bed, and I'm like laying down about to have my nap. My kid comes in and she's like, hey, what's this? And I said, oh, I just got some Belial 1s in. And they're like, oh, cool. Can I look at one? I'm like, hell yeah, you can. And I was watching them read it. And then suddenly I woke up. I'm like, oh, I mean, like, it's like, you're watching a deer in the wilderness, and then suddenly you just kind of like, and I nodded off, and I was dead, and suddenly I woke up, and they're long gone, and and it's been like at least an hour, and I'm like, oh, damn. And so I didn't really mention it, and then at one point they were just like, I read Belial, I really liked it, and I was like, oh crap, really? And they were like, yeah, it was really funny. I'm like, I have an issue 2, and they're like, maybe later, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. Too soon.
Like,
I get it.
Yeah.
I know. I got greedy. I understand that.
And I will say that's another thing too, like putting out issues. I'm so used to going down and getting issues like every week at the comic store when new releases come out. But then I'm like, how soon is too soon to launch another issue? We launch, and I see some of these creators who wait like a whole year before they launch, an issue. And then I see other creators that are putting out their next issue 2 or 3 months after they, have launched the first issue. And so that's something that I really like. I get a lot of mixed feedback about. I get a lot of people that are like, 2 months is too soon. Like, I don't have the money. I don't have the budget. I'm wanting to fund other projects. And then I get a lot of people that are like, no, I want to read it like as soon as I possibly can. Right. And 6 months is like too far down the road for me to like wait.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you there. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, for me, it's been too long since Belial 2 came out. So I know. It's been some time. It has.
It's ready for number 3.
It is. It is. I literally, right before this, I was working on the latter end of the script, and I'm so excited about it. I was, when you're laughing at your own jokes,
Yeah.
for me, I'm like, this is so fucking funny. I feel really good about this one. Is a wolf your favorite animal?
Ooh.
And to both, what are your favorite animals?
It is not. My favorite animal is actually an owl, which helped create the inspiration behind the meow creature who's in my character, who's part owl, part cat, who's is another character that can transform from a human to their animal shape. And she's one of the main characters that are in issue 2 and issue 3 and future issues. So an owl is definitely my favorite character. However, I find something so fascinating historically about wolves and how like they're portrayed so many different ways in like history and
The
in
mythos and
fairy
lore.
tales. Yes, and I feel like there's such a like strong draw to them that I wanted to incorporate them in my like good guy bad guy like and the main character too, that like tear between, okay, she's half wolf shapeshifter, but she has no idea, and these powers don't manifest really until she becomes older and more like into her college years, and then gets transported to this magical world, and now she's like having to accept who she is and like really change things. Like, you know, am I going to accept this? Am I going to not believe it? Are we going to like fulfill my destiny, basically?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're hunting the wild McRib here.
Yes. Bring along your hot sauce.
Right? My favorite animal, okay, so physically to look at, a lynx. I love
Oh, yeah.
They're
nice.
There's just
I
something
like them.
beautiful and amazing about a lynx. But I grew up in an area near an Indian reserve. And so when people talk about their spirit animals, I actually was able to go through a ceremony to find your spirit animal. So when people say,
awesome.
"Oh, this is my spirit animal," I'm like, "No, I actually know what
I
my
actually
spirit
have
is."
a spirit animal.
Yeah, like I have one, and it was a dolphin. And I thought that was lame as fuck at first until I started researching dolphins.
I mean,
and then I realized they're very smart. They're very they're cliquey. They work well in groups and whatnot, which is something that I do a lot. And they're very like loyal and protective to the pack.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, ooh, yeah, all of that feels like me. So it was really neat because at no time had I ever really looked into it. And so the fact that and I fucking love the water. I love swimming. I was a lifeguard. I spent all my time growing up in the water. So it's so funny that my mind went there, and it really helped make me believe that.
No.
I wanted it to be a bear. I felt like a bear was the right thing, and no, it ended up in this quest. I actually walked past the bear, and I was like, what? No, you want that thing. And it ended up being a dolphin. I'm like, that's fucking cool. So awesome. It was very neat. Peyton says, after I get done coloring, the last thing I want is to see it again in comps. That's why you sell them, Peyton. That's why you sell them.
Peyton, and don't keep them.
You know what I learned and love about, especially watching like Steph sell his comps? Mm-hmm. He sells them for more than I do. And what I love about that is that reminds me, you know what, maybe I'm not putting enough self-worth into what I do or into what, you know, he, myself, the entire team, Carrie Ann, everyone, what we've all done together. And so what I love about seeing other people sell comps is, whoa, you're able to get 15, 20, 25, whatever bucks for that? Yeah, I am. Oh, shit. Then I really need to start pushing myself. Why am I not getting that? And why, you know, and why am I not even thinking that it's worth that? So
and I think that's just the problem as a society ourselves. Like we just don't understand our worth. Like we want to make more, but at the same time you think like, is somebody really gonna pay for this? Is somebody really gonna do this or that?
Yeah, absolutely. Krysta Masma is gonna ask the questions.
I've got questions.
Good. I usually get one for my own shelf, but not sell. I always ask that I get at least one. Yeah, absolutely. I'm very big into that. Thank you. Yeah. You're so right though. What are some notable things people have said to you about your stories that brought on that immensely gratifying smile?
I think the biggest thing that's really stuck to me is people have just really enjoyed how relatable they were and how they could like see themselves in the story and how they could get immersed into it and just like really enjoyed the plot and one like the cliffhangers and like, but wait, I want to know what happens next. Like, I can't wait for the next book. When is it coming out?
Yeah, right? No, yeah, and that is the best feeling in the world.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm gonna just say it here, Steph. You're already in. Don't fucking try to create a fucking campaign and stuff. You're in. We love what you did. I had to sell Sean on it because he didn't know you at the time, and then
Mm-hmm.
afterwards he was like, "Oh fuck, that was a no-brainer," and I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
I knew the guy and I knew what he produced and what he did, so for me it was a no-brainer." But now for both of us, yeah, Steph, you're in. Don't worry about it. I will get you a copy of the script. Kidding, you don't read. But I'll tell you what it's about and you can come up with something and we'll make it happen. He doesn't read. He did read Belial 1, actually. And he may have read 2, I don't know. But I know he did read the first one. That's why he ended up doing the cover. He read the first one, which was delightful and so nice of him to do, and then he drew that, and I was like, fuck, now I gotta make it a cover. Okay. Octopus. I feel you, dude. I get that. I totally get that would be your favorite. Are you thinking about implementing any other animals into your story, especially with the shapeshifters?
Yes. So there are multiple shapeshifters. You start to introduce some of them in issue 3. There are mermaids, there are fae, there are demons, and there are 9-tailed mystical spirit mage foxes. So you want animals, you want shapeshifters, you want really freaky things. It's definitely in Wolf and I.
Right. Absolutely. A cover can have Blau wearing pink headphones. Maybe. You never know. I'm not going to commission that, but if an artist did that, I'd be okay with it. Right? I still have to read. Yeah, you do. You absolutely do. I'm excited for my trip because I'm about to read a whole crap ton of comics on the road. Mm-hmm. And actually, as we start to finish this up, I do want to tell you guys the next 2 shows, because I'll literally be driving to Seattle and then home from Seattle. I'll be on the road. They will not be live. I'm going to be pre-recording them and then putting them up on the Tuesday. So they'll still be here. We have great guests. Next week we have Anthony Pollock and he's from his anthology Producing the End. And then the week after is going to be Zing Zang. So we got some good people coming up. It's going to be great. Sadly, I didn't realize till afterwards, oh shit, yeah, I'm going to be on the road. What the hell? So Krysta's got that beautiful link. Go check out the book.
Get yourself a whiskey glass.
Right, get yourself a whiskey glass.
Or drink of your choice glass.
Right. Michaela Jade, always good seeing you, hon. He's pre-recording because he can't handle the chat. Dude, I've handled the chat for 50 fucking episodes with your ass, all right? Literally, he was the first guest, and then he's bombed me every show since. So yeah, I can handle it. I'm still here, still taking the hits, not punching back that hard. Can we pre-record the insults? You're damn right. I expect you guys to throw some insults in the comments. Please do. Can you give us that one last spiel before we take off and
of course,
tell everyone where to find you?
Yeah, so you can find me everywhere at Fleur de Villainy. I'm on all major social media platforms. The comic has its own Instagram at Wolf and I Comic. And then other than that, we are on Kickstarter. We're live. We have 12 days left. And then here is our movie theme pitch for the comic book again. Boom. In a land slowly overtaken by darkness, eyes peer into every nightmare. Tread carefully, take heed, and beware, for creatures crawl throughout the night. Secrets of history shall come to light. Internal powers before unknown. Choices are made, worlds are shown. 2 herons are faced with a choice to band with friends and unite their voice. Against this evil they must stand, for the fate of Crayweth lays in their hands. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Wolf and I is available on Kickstarter. You can get issue 3. You can get all 3 issues on add-ons. You get whiskey glasses, t-shirts, pins, and more. It's exciting. I can't wait to bring it out to you. And that's a wrap.
How much longer do you guys have?
12 days. Yeah, so we are half.
We're hitting 100.
We're officially 100. Wait, 100 backers?
You're gonna hit 100 backers. Yeah.
That would be insane. I would
saying it right here and now.
Lose my mind. Put it out to the universe. That would be amazing. That would double what we made for issue 2.
We have
backers.
You said we have 7 days left or 12 days left?
No, 12 days left.
12 days. We're hitting 100. No problem. So I'm saying it right now. It's hitting 100. I have zero doubts. And you guys can quote me. It's right here at the 55-minute mark.
Oh, I'm totally down if it makes 100,000.
Yeah, right.
I mean, bring it on.
I really hope she gets that. Not as believable, but definitely 100 backers. I believe in the 100 backers. And if you make the 100 grand, give a piece of that to Greg, because I'm sure he had something to do with that.
Oh, Greg's got my money. He knows I got his project. I backed him. He's good.
And Matt Knowles says you sound possessed by the spirit of Vincent Price. So yeah, that's a female Vincent Price. I really like that, guys.
Oh, that's epic.
Thank you so much, Krysta. I was so glad to have you on. That was amazing. I had a really great time.
No, it's been a great night, and I'm glad we spent 55% of the conversation talking about Final Fantasy, because life.
I'm pretty sure it was close to 60, but we're good.
Who's counting,
guys,
right?
Right, yeah. Someone, you know what? Steph will go back, and he'll tell us he's definitely guilty. Thank you guys so much. So glad to have you guys out. I will see you in 3 weeks, but please check out the other shows. I know we're going to have a good time. And as always, my name is Chuck, and I give a fuck. Take care, gang.